The morning sun cast long shadows across the abandoned city of Millbrook. Captain Jake Morrison crouched behind a crumbling concrete barrier, his radio crackling with desperate voices. The Ranger unit had been fighting for 72 hours straight, and their ammunition was running dangerously low. "Control, this is Alpha Team. We're pinned down at Sector 7. Multiple hostiles advancing from the north and east corridors." Jake's voice was hoarse from shouting orders over gunfire. The enemy had arrived without warning 3 days ago. Nobody knew exactly who they were or where they came from. They wore black tactical gear and moved with military precision. What made them truly terrifying was their complete silence. They never spoke, never shouted, never made any sound except the steady thump of their boots on pavement. Sergeant Maria Santos crawled up beside Jake, her uniform torn and dirty. "Captain, we've lost contact with Bravo Team. Charlie Team is down to 4 men, and we're almost out of ammo." Her dark eyes reflected the same exhaustion Jake felt in his bones. Jake checked his rifle. 2 magazines left. Around him, his remaining 8 soldiers looked like they'd been through hell. Private Thompson had a bandage wrapped around his head, blood seeping through the white cloth. Corporal Williams was favoring his left leg, probably a twisted ankle from jumping between buildings yesterday. "How many are we facing now?" Jake asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Best estimate? About 200. Maybe more. They keep coming from somewhere we can't identify." Santos handed him her binoculars. "Take a look at the shopping center. They've set up some kind of command post there." Jake peered through the lenses. The enemy had indeed established a base of operations in what used to be Millbrook's main shopping district. Black vehicles surrounded the building, and he could see figures moving on the rooftops. They had turned the entire area into a fortress. "Sir, incoming transmission from command," called out Private Rodriguez, their communications specialist. His radio equipment was battered, but still functional. Jake grabbed the handset. "This is Alpha Team Leader. Alpha Team, this is General Morrison at Central Command. What's your status?" The irony wasn't lost on Jake that he shared a last name with the general. They weren't related, but it had been a running joke in the unit for months. Today, nobody was laughing. "General, we're in bad shape. Enemy forces have us surrounded. We estimate they outnumber us 20 to 1. Our ammunition is critically low, and we've suffered heavy casualties." There was a long pause. Jake could hear other voices in the background, probably other officers discussing strategy. Finally, the general spoke again. "Alpha Team, we're going to be honest with you. This enemy force is unlike anything we've encountered before. They've taken 12 cities in the past week. Our conventional tactics aren't working against them." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What are you saying, sir?" "We're saying that if you can't hold that position, we may have to consider more extreme measures. The president has authorized the use of nuclear weapons if this threat continues to spread." The radio went silent except for static. Jake stared at the device in his hand, unable to process what he'd just heard. Nuclear weapons? On American soil? On their position? Did he just say what I think he said? "Santos Vispirit." Jake nodded slowly. "They're going to nuke the city if we can't stop these guys." The weight of that statement settled over the entire squad. They weren't just fighting for their lives anymore. They were fighting for the lives of any civilians who might still be hiding in the city. They were fighting to prevent their own government from turning Millbrook into a radioactive crater. Private Thompson spoke up, his voice shaky. "Captain, how are we supposed to stop 200 of them with 8 people and barely any ammo?" It was a fair question. Jake had been asking himself the same thing. In all his 15 years as a ranger, he'd never faced odds like this. They'd been trained for impossible missions, but this was beyond impossible. This was suicide. "We need something impossible," Jake muttered, more to himself than to his team. The radio crackled again. This time it was a different voice, younger and less official sounding. "Alpha Team, this is Lieutenant Sarah Chun from Recon Unit Delta. I'm monitoring your frequency. I might have something for you." Jake grabbed the radio. "Delta Recon, this is Alpha Team. What do you have?" "There's someone here who wants to help. She's not military, but She's got skills you might need. I'm sending her your way. Negative, Delta Recon. This is not a place for civilians. We can't protect non-combatants. Sir, with respect, she's not asking for protection. She's offering to provide it. Before Jake could respond, Santos grabbed his arm and pointed down the street. Captain, look. A lone figure was walking down the main street toward their position. It was a woman, moving with purpose and confidence despite the danger. She carried what looked like a large rifle case across her back. Is she insane? Williams whispered. She's walking right through the kill zone. Jake raised his binoculars again. The woman appeared to be in her early 30s, with short dark hair and military bearing despite wearing civilian clothes. She moved like someone with combat training, staying low and using cover when available, but she was definitely heading straight for them. The enemy had noticed her too. Jake could see movement in the buildings across the street as the black-clad figures repositioned to get a better view of this new arrival. She's going to get herself killed, Thompson said. But something strange happened. As the woman continued walking, the enemy forces seemed to hesitate. They had clear shots at her, but they weren't taking them. It was as if they were as puzzled by her appearance as the Rangers were. The woman reached the base of their building and looked up. Even from 5 stories up, Jake could see her eyes. They were calm, focused, and absolutely fearless. Alpha Team, she called up, her voice carrying clearly in the morning air. Permission to come up. I think I can help you with your impossible problem. Jake looked at Santos, who shrugged. At this point, Captain, what do we have to lose? Come on up, Jake shouted down. Use the fire escape on the east side of the building. Watch for sniper positions in the windows across the street. They watched as she made her way up the fire escape with practiced ease. She moved like someone who'd done this kind of thing before, checking corners and potential ambush points as she climbed. When she reached their floor, Jake got his first close look at her. She was definitely military trained, no question about it. Her movements were efficient and purposeful, and she carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd seen combat before. Captain Morrison, she asked, extending her hand. I'm Alex Rivera, former Marine Scout sniper, currently working private security. Jake shook her hand, noting the firm grip and callous palms. Ms. Rivera, I appreciate the offer, but this isn't a job for private contractors. We're facing overwhelming odds against an unknown enemy force. Alex smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. It was the kind of smile that suggested she knew something the rest of them didn't. Captain, I've been tracking this enemy force for the past week. I know who they are, how they operate, and, most importantly, I know their weakness. Santos leaned forward. Their weakness. Alex nodded and unslung the case from her back. They're not human. The statement hung in the air like a bombshell. Jake felt his rational mind rejecting the idea, but something about the way she said it made him pause. What do you mean? Not human, he asked carefully. I mean they're artificial. Some kind of advanced robotic soldiers. That's why they don't make any vocal sounds, why they move in perfect coordination, and why conventional tactics aren't working against them. She opened her rifle case, revealing a weapon unlike anything Jake had ever seen. It looked like a standard sniper rifle at first glance, but there were modifications and attachments that seemed almost futuristic. This is why I'm here, Alex continued. This rifle fires specialized rounds designed to disrupt electronic systems. If these things are robots, then this weapon can stop them. Thompson whistled low. That's some serious hardware, lady. Alex glanced at him. It took me 2 years to build, and I've been waiting for the right opportunity to test it in the field. Jake studied her face. You've been hunting these things. My brother was killed when they hit Phoenix last month. The military covered it up, said it was a terrorist attack. But I know better. I've been following their pattern, trying to figure out how to stop them. The personal motivation explained a lot. Jake had seen that look before, the cold determination of someone seeking revenge for a fallen family member. Even if you're right about what they are, Santos said, you're still talking about taking on 200 of them with one rifle. Alex checked her weapon with practiced efficiency. I don't need to kill all of them. I just need to kill the right ones. These units operate with a command structure. Take out the commanders, and the rest become vulnerable. She pointed toward the shopping center. See those figures on the rooftop? The ones that haven't moved position in the last hour? Those are the command units. They're coordinating the entire attack. Jake looked through his binoculars again. She was right. While the other enemy figures moved around constantly, there were 3 on the main rooftop that had remained perfectly still, like statues. How can you tell they're the commanders? Williams asked. Experience, Alex replied. I've observed their attack patterns in 4 different cities. The commanders always position themselves with maximum visibility of the battlefield. They communicate with the others through some kind of wireless network. She loaded a strange-looking round into her rifle. The bullet had an unusual blue tint and what appeared to be tiny electronic components visible through a transparent casing. Each of these rounds contains an electromagnetic pulse generator. When it hits its target, it releases a localized EMP burst that should shut down any electronic systems within a 10-foot radius. Shit. Jake caught the uncertainty in her words. Alex met his eyes. Like I said, this is the first field test, but the theory is sound, and the lab tests were promising. Rodriguez had been monitoring radio chatter throughout the conversation. Captain, Command is asking for a status update. They want to know if we're going to be able to hold the position. Jake looked around at his exhausted, outnumbered team, then at the mysterious woman who claimed she could solve their impossible problem with experimental ammunition. Tell Command we're developing a new tactical approach, he said finally. Buy us 1 hour. Yes, sir. Alex was already setting up her rifle, using the concrete barrier as a stable shooting platform. I'll need someone to spot for me and call out wind conditions. Santos, you're the best marksman we have left, Jake said. Can you work with her? Santos nodded and pulled out her own scope. What's the range to target? 800 meters, Alex replied. Wind is steady from the southwest at about 10 miles per hour. Temperature is climbing, so there'll be heat distortion to account for. That's a hell of a shot, Williams observed. Alex adjusted her scope. I've made harder ones. As she prepared to take her first shot, Jake couldn't help but wonder if they were putting all their faith in the wrong person. But as he looked at his remaining ammunition and counted his surviving soldiers, he realized they didn't have many options left. What happens if this doesn't work? He asked quietly. Alex didn't look up from her rifle. Then, your general gets to find out if nuclear weapons work better than conventional ones. The casual way she mentioned nuclear annihilation sent a chill down Jake's spine. But there was something about her confidence that gave him hope. Maybe, just maybe, they've found their impossible solution. Target acquired, Alex whispered. First commander, center of the rooftop. Range 800 meters. Santos peered through her scope. I see him. Steady as a statue, just like you said. On my mark, Alex said, her finger moving to the trigger. This is for you, Miguel. Jake realized she was talking to her dead brother. The rifle fired with a sharp crack that echoed across the empty city. 800 meters away, the figure on the rooftop suddenly jerked backward and toppled from view. Immediately, the effect on the other enemy forces was visible. The coordinated movement patterns became erratic. Some of the figures seemed to stumble or move in confused circles. Holy shit, Thompson breathed. It worked, but Alex was already reloading. That was just the first one. I need to take out the other 2 command units before they adapt to the loss. She swung her rifle toward the second target. Santos, I need wind speed and direction. Southwest, 12 miles per hour and increasing, Santos reported. Alex made another adjustment and fired. The second commander fell. The chaos among the enemy forces was now clearly visible. What had been a disciplined military formation was rapidly becoming a disorganized mob. Some of the figures were moving in random directions, bumping into walls and obstacles. Third target, Alex said, but as she lined up her shot, something changed. The remaining commander suddenly moved, dropping behind cover on the rooftop. Damn, Alex muttered. It's learning. Can you still take the shot? Jake asked. Not from this angle. I need to get closer. Santos shook her head. That's suicide. Even with their command structure disrupted, There are still 150 of them down there. Alex stood up, slinging her rifle across her back. Then, I guess we'll have to be creative. She turned to Jake. Captain, I need you to create a distraction. Something big enough to draw their attention away from the shopping center. What kind of distraction? Alex smiled that dangerous smile again. The kind that makes a lot of noise and smoke. How much explosive material do you have left? Jake checked with his team. Between them, they had 6 grenades and 2 blocks of C for that Rodriguez had been saving for emergencies. That'll work, Alex said. Set them off in sequence about 2 blocks south of here. Make it look like you're trying to flank their position from the east. What are you going to be doing while we're drawing fire? Santos asked. Alex pointed to a tall office building about 3 blocks north of the shopping center. I'm going to get to the top of that building. From there, I'll have a clear shot at the last commander. Williams stared at her. You're going to cross 3 blocks of hostile territory by yourself? I've done worse. Jake studied the route she'd have to take. It was dangerous, but with the enemy forces in disarray, it might actually be possible. How long do you need? He asked. Alex checked her watch. Give me 15 minutes to get into position. Then, start your fireworks show. She headed for the stairwell, then paused and turned back. Captain, when this is over, you're going to have some very interesting questions to answer for your superiors. These robot soldiers didn't build themselves. What do you mean? I mean someone with serious resources and advanced technology created them. Someone who wanted to test them against American military forces. This whole thing has been an experiment. With that unsettling thought, she disappeared down the stairs, leaving Jake and his team to contemplate the implications of what she'd just told them. Rodriguez, give me a secure line to command, Jake ordered. I think the general needs to know what we're really dealing with here. As his communications specialist worked to establish contact, Jake watched through his binoculars as Alex made her way across the war-torn city. She moved from building to building with remarkable skill, staying in cover and avoiding the confused robot soldiers who wandered the streets below. Sir, I have General Morrison on a secure channel, Rodriguez reported. Jake took the handset. General, this is Alpha Team. We've made contact with an individual who has critical intelligence about the enemy force. What kind of intelligence? Sir, the hostiles may not be human. We're dealing with some kind of robotic soldiers, and there's evidence this entire attack is a field test of new military technology. There was a long silence. Alpha Team, are you certain about this assessment? Sir, we've successfully engaged and neutralized 2 command units using specialized anti-electronic warfare ammunition. The enemy response patterns support the assessment that we're dealing with artificial soldiers. Who provided this ammunition? Jake hesitated. A former Marine sniper, sir. She's been tracking these forces independently. A civilian contractor? Negative, sir. She appears to be operating on personal motivation. Her brother was killed in Phoenix. Another long pause. Alpha Team, if your assessment is correct, then we're dealing with a much larger problem than we initially thought. Continue your mission and gather as much intelligence as possible. We'll handle the implications from here. Understood, sir. Jake handed the radio back to Rodriguez and checked his watch. 12 minutes until they needed to start their distraction. He looked around at his remaining soldiers and wondered if any of them would live to see the end of this day. All right, people, he said. We're about to find out if one woman with an experimental rifle can change the course of this war. Santos was still watching Alex's progress through her scope. She's reached the target building. Looks like she's found a way inside. Time to earn our pay, Jake said, grabbing his remaining grenades. Let's go make some noise. The explosion started exactly 15 minutes later. Jake and his team had positioned themselves in an abandoned warehouse 2 blocks south of their original position, and the coordinated detonation of their remaining explosives created exactly the kind of chaos they needed. The sound echoed across the empty city like thunder, followed by billowing clouds of black smoke that rose into the morning sky. The effect on the robotic soldiers was immediate and dramatic. Those that hadn't been completely disabled by the loss of their commanders began moving toward the explosion in precise formation, their programming apparently directing them to investigate and neutralize the source of the attack. Through her scope atop the 40-story office building, Alex watched the enemy forces converge on the warehouse district. She had reached her position with minutes to spare, climbing 30 flights of stairs while carrying 60 pounds of equipment. Her legs burned from the effort, but her breathing was steady and controlled. The view from a rooftop gave her a perfect line of sight to the shopping center where the last command unit was hidden. She could see it now, crouched behind an air conditioning unit on the roof, its red optical sensors sweeping back and forth as it tried to coordinate the increasingly chaotic response of its subordinates. Alex settled into her shooting position and began her calculations. Range, 620 meters. Wind speed, steady at 15 miles per hour from the southwest. Temperature, rising toward 90 degrees, which meant heat distortion would be a factor. The target was partially concealed, giving her a shot window of approximately 18 inches. She loaded one of her specialized EMP rounds and adjusted her scope for the range and conditions. Through the lens, she could see the command unit's head and shoulders clearly. Its movements were mechanical and precise, exactly what she would expect from an advanced robot. Her mind drifted briefly to Miguel, her younger brother who had died in Phoenix. He'd been a computer programmer fascinated by artificial intelligence and robotics. The irony that she was now using his knowledge to destroy the very type of technology he'd loved was not lost on her. Miguel had always said that every computer system had a weakness, some vulnerability that could be exploited by someone who understood how it worked. These robots were sophisticated, but they were still machines. They could be stopped. Alex steadied her breathing and placed her finger on the trigger. The target was moving in a predictable pattern, pausing at regular intervals to scan different sections of the battlefield. She timed the sequence and waited for the optimal moment. The rifle fired with its characteristic sharp crack, and the specialized round streaked across 600 meters of empty air in less than 2 seconds. Alex watched through her scope as the bullet struck the command unit center mass, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the electromagnetic pulse activated. The effect was instantaneous and spectacular. The command unit jerked violently as if it had been struck by lightning, its optical sensors flickering rapidly between red and dark. Electrical sparks cascaded from its joints and connection points, and after a few seconds of spastic movement, it toppled backward and lay still. Far below, the remaining robotic soldiers suddenly stopped moving entirely. Some were caught mid-stride and froze in place like bizarre statues. Others simply collapsed where they stood. The coordinated assault that had terrorized Millbrook for 3 days came to an abrupt and complete halt. Alex allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction, but she didn't relax her vigilance. She'd learned through hard experience that victory could turn to defeat very quickly if you let your guard down. Her radio crackled. "Unknown sniper, this is Alpha Team. We've got eyes on the target area. All hostile movement has ceased. What's your status?" "Alpha Team, this is Alex Rivera. Mission accomplished. The last command unit is down. Outstanding work. Can you make it back to our position?" Alex looked down at the street below. The motionless robot soldiers looked harmless now, but she knew that appearances could be deceiving. "Give me 20 minutes. I want to take a closer look at one of these things before I come down." "Copy that. We'll maintain overwatch." Alex packed up her rifle and made her way down to street level. The first robot soldier she encountered was standing frozen in front of what used to be a coffee shop, its weapon raised as if it had been preparing to fire when a shutdown command reached it. Up close, the technology was even more impressive than she'd expected. The robot's exterior was covered in sophisticated armor plating that looked almost organic in design. Its face was hidden behind a tactical mask, but she could see the red glow of optical sensors through the eye slits. She pulled off the mask and found herself looking at a mechanical face that was disturbingly human-like. The features were perfectly proportioned, with artificial skin that felt almost real to the touch. If not for the obviously mechanical joints and the glowing eyes, it could have been mistaken for a person wearing elaborate makeup. Jesus, she whispered. Someone spent a fortune building these things. She took out her phone and began documenting everything she could see. The construction materials, the weapon systems, the apparent power sources. Miguel would have been fascinated by the engineering, even if he would have been horrified by the purpose. As she worked, she noticed something odd. Each robot had a small data port on the back of its neck, hidden beneath the armor plating. She pulled out a modified USB cable from her equipment kit and connected it to her phone. The device immediately began downloading data from the robot's memory banks. File after file of operational parameters, mission objectives, and command protocols scrolled across her screen. But it was the origin data that made her blood run cold. The robots had been manufactured by Titan Defense Solutions, a private military contractor that she knew had close ties to several government agencies. The purchase orders and deployment authorizations all bore official Department of Defense codes. These weren't foreign soldiers or terrorist weapons. They were American-made robots, deployed on American soil against American soldiers. Alex's hands shook as she scrolled through the data. The robots had been programmed with detailed intelligence about Ranger unit tactics, weapon capabilities, and response protocols. Someone had given them everything they needed to fight American forces effectively. She unplugged her phone and stood up slowly, her mind racing through the implications. This hadn't been a test of new military technology against foreign enemies. This had been a test against the American military itself. Her radio crackled again. "Rivera, this is Alpha Team. We've got incoming helicopters from the east. Looks like military birds." Alex looked up to see 3 black helicopters approaching fast and low. They didn't look like standard military aircraft. They were sleek and quiet, with no visible markings or identification numbers. "Alpha Team, those aren't military helicopters," she transmitted quickly. "They're probably Titan Defense. The people who built these robots." "What are you talking about?" "I've downloaded data from one of the units. These robots were built by an American defense contractor. This whole attack was a setup. The helicopters were close enough now that she could see armed figures preparing to rappel from them. They were wearing the same black tactical gear as the robots." Alex broke into a run, heading for the nearest building with overhead cover. "Alpha Team, you need to get out of there now. These people just lost a very expensive field test, and they're probably not happy about it." "We can't abandon our position," came Jake's voice over the radio. "We have orders to hold this sector." "Captain, your orders came from people who may have been in on this from the beginning. Think about it. How did the enemy know exactly where to find you? How did they know your unit's tactics so precisely?" Alex ducked into an alley as the first helicopter began deploying troops on a rooftop 2 blocks away. The soldiers moved with professional efficiency, clearly intending to secure the area and eliminate any witnesses to what had really happened. "Rivera, are you saying this was some kind of inside job?" "I'm saying someone wanted to test advanced robotic soldiers against elite American troops, and they needed a plausible cover story for when things went wrong. Your unit was supposed to be wiped out along with the robots." There was a long silence over the radio. Alex could imagine Jake Morrison and his soldiers processing the implications of what she just told them. "Son of a bitch," came Santos's voice. "That's why we never got the reinforcements we were promised. They wanted us to fail." Alex was moving through the building now, making her way to the upper floors where she could get a better view of the tactical situation. The Titan Defense soldiers were professional and well-equipped, but they were also predictable. They moved like military contractors, focused on completing their mission efficiently rather than adapting to unexpected circumstances. "Alpha Team, what's your ammunition status?" she asked. "Still critically low," Jake responded. "We used most of our remaining explosives for the distraction." "Then, we need to be smart about this. These contractors aren't robots. They can be reasoned with, negotiated with, or if necessary, outmaneuvered." Alex reached a window with a good view of the street and pulled out a rifle. The Titan Defense soldiers were setting up a perimeter around the shopping center, probably to secure the disabled robots before anyone else could examine them. She counted at least 20 operators, all heavily armed and equipped with advanced communications gear. They were professionals, but they were also operating under the assumption that they were dealing with a handful of exhausted rangers who didn't know what was really going on. That assumption was about to cost them. Alex selected a standard sniper round instead of one of her remaining EMP rounds. These targets were human, and regular ammunition would work just fine. She lined up her shot on the apparent team leader, a tall man in tactical gear who was directing the other soldiers from position near one of the helicopters. The range was moderate, about 400 meters, with minimal wind interference. But instead of taking the shot, she activated her radio and broadcast on an open frequency that she knew the Titan soldiers would be monitoring. Titan defense operators, this is Alex Rivera. I have you under observation and in my sights. I'm prepared to start eliminating your personnel unless we can reach an understanding. Her radio immediately crackled with activity as the contractors tried to locate the source of the transmission. She watched through her scope as they took cover and began scanning the buildings around them. Rivera, you're interfering with a classified military operation, came a stern voice over the radio. Stand down immediately or face the consequences. Alex smiled grimly. That's funny, because according to the data I just downloaded from your robots, this is actually a corporate field test being conducted without proper military authorization. I'm thinking the Pentagon might be very interested to learn what Titan Defense has been up to. There was a brief silence. Then, what do you want? I want you to pack up your toys and leave. The Rangers have done their job. The robots are neutralized, and everyone can go home. No one needs to die today. That's not possible. We have orders to secure the area and eliminate all witnesses to the test operation. Alex had expected that response. Corporate contractors were often more concerned with covering up their activities than with minimizing casualties. In that case, she said, let me make you a counteroffer. She pulled the trigger, and 400 meters away, the team leader dropped to the ground with a bullet through his shoulder. Not fatal, but definitely incapacitating. The next shot goes through someone's head, she transmitted calmly. I've got plenty of ammunition and excellent visibility of your positions. How many of your people are you willing to sacrifice to protect corporate secrets? The effect on the Titan soldiers was immediate. They scattered for better cover, their formation discipline breaking down as they realized they were being hunted by a skilled sniper with a superior position. Alpha Team, Alex called on their frequency. Now would be a good time to relocate. These guys are about to get very unfriendly, and I can't cover all of you from here. Where do you want us to go? Jake responded. Alex studied the tactical situation through her scope. The Titan soldiers were focused on her position now, which gave the Rangers an opportunity to move without being observed. Head east toward the river. There's an old bridge about 6 blocks from your current position. Cross it and take cover on the far side. I'll meet you there after I finish discouraging these corporate mercenaries. What about you? You'll be outnumbered 20-1. Alex loaded another round into her rifle. Don't worry about me, Captain. I've been dealing with people like this for longer than I care to admit. She could see the Rangers moving through the ruins of the city, staying low and using cover effectively. Santos was leading the way, with Jake bringing up the rear to make sure no one was left behind. They were good soldiers, and they deserved better than being used as test subjects for corporate weapons development. The Titan soldiers were trying to triangulate her position using the sound of her rifle shot, but Alex had already moved to a different window. She selected her next target, a soldier who was trying to set up a heavy machine gun on a rooftop across the street. This time she aimed for the weapon instead of the person, sending a round through the gun's receiver mechanism and rendering it useless. The soldier dove for cover as metal fragments flew around him. Titan operators, she transmitted, I'm not trying to kill your people. I'm just trying to convince you that this operation isn't worth the cost. You've lost your test subjects, your robots are disabled, and your cover story is blown. Cut your losses and go home. Rivera, you have no idea what you're interfering with, came the response. This technology could revolutionize warfare and save countless American lives. By testing it against American soldiers? Alex shot back. By treating our own troops as expendable lab rats? Sorry, but I'm not seeing the patriotic angle here. She was moving again, making her way to a different building to avoid the search teams that were trying to locate her. The Titan soldiers were good, but they were operating in an urban environment that she knew better than they did. Her phone buzzed with an incoming message. Someone was trying to contact her through an encrypted channel that she recognized as belonging to a contact in military intelligence. The message was brief. Rivera, this is Colonel Martinez. Stand down immediately. You're interfering with a classified operation that has presidential authorization. Alex stared at the screen for a moment, then typed back. Martinez, if this operation has presidential authorization, then why are corporate contractors trying to murder American soldiers to cover it up? There was a long delay before the response came. The situation is more complicated than you understand. We need to discuss this in person. Not interested in more lies, Colonel. I've got the data files from the robots. I know exactly what this operation really was. Another delay. Then, the Rangers are not the target, Rivera. They never were. The real target is you. Alex felt her blood turn to ice. What are you talking about? The entire Millbrook operation was designed to draw you out. Someone very powerful wants you eliminated, and they're using military resources to do it. Alex's mind raced through the implications. She'd made a lot of enemies during her years as a Marine sniper and, later, as a private investigator tracking corporate corruption. But she'd never imagined that someone would go to such elaborate lengths to set a trap for her. Who, she typed. Senator Harrison Blackwood. He's the one behind Titan Defense, and you've been getting too close to his illegal activities. The robot test was just a convenient cover story. Alex knew that name. Senator Blackwood was the chairman of the Senate Defense Appropriations Committee, with direct oversight of military contractors. If he was dirty, he had the power to cover it up at the highest levels. Where are the Rangers now? Martinez asked. Alex looked through her scope toward the bridge where she directed Jake and his team. She could see them taking cover behind the concrete barriers, apparently safe for the moment. They're secure, she replied. Good. Keep them that way. Blackwood's people won't hesitate to kill American soldiers to get to you. What do you want me to do? Disappear. Go underground. Let me handle this through official channels. Alex considered the suggestion for about 10 seconds before rejecting it. She tried working through official channels before, and it had usually resulted in the bad guys walking away while the evidence mysteriously vanished. No deal, Colonel. I'm finishing this my way. She turned off her phone and focused on the immediate situation. The Titan soldiers had spread out across the area and were conducting a systematic search for her position. They were professional and methodical, but they were also making one critical mistake. They were assuming she was trying to escape. Instead, Alex was moving closer to their center of operations. While they searched the buildings around her last known position, she was making her way toward the shopping center where the disabled robots were still scattered around the parking lot. If Senator Blackwood wanted this technology to disappear, then she was going to make sure it became very public instead. Alex reached the shopping center and began documenting everything she could find. The robots, the helicopters, the Titan defense equipment. She uploaded the photos and data files to a secure server that would automatically distribute them to news outlets and government watchdog organizations if she didn't check in every 12 hours. Her insurance policy was in place. Now was time to end this. She climbed to the roof of the shopping center and set up her rifle in a position that gave her clear lines of sight to all 3 helicopter landing zones. The Titan soldiers were still searching for her several blocks away, which gave her the time she needed to prepare. Alex loaded one of her remaining EMP rounds and aimed at the nearest helicopter. The specialized ammunition should disable the aircraft's electronic systems and strand the contractors in the city where they could be captured and questioned by legitimate authorities. But as she lined up her shot, her radio crackled with an unexpected transmission. Alex Rivera, this is Senator Harrison Blackwood. I think it's time we had a conversation, Alex. Kept her rifle aimed at the helicopter while responding to the unexpected transmission. Senator Blackwood, I was wondering when you'd stop hiding behind your corporate soldiers and speak for yourself. The voice that came through her radio was smooth and cultured, with the polished confidence of someone accustomed to wielding power. Ms. Rivera, you've caused me considerable inconvenience today. My associates tell me you've been quite resourceful in disrupting our field test. Your field test involved murdering American soldiers, Alex replied coldly. I tend to take that personally. The Rangers were never supposed to be harmed. They were simply providing a realistic combat scenario for our robotic systems. Think of it as an elaborate training exercise. Alex watched through her scope as several Titan Defense soldiers moved into position around the shopping center. They were trying to surround her while their boss kept her distracted with conversation. Training exercises don't usually involve live ammunition and actual casualties, she pointed out. Sometimes sacrifices must be made for the greater good. The technology you've seen today represents the future of warfare. American soldiers will never again have to face enemy fire because our robots will fight those battles for them. And how much money does Senator Harrison Blackwood stand to make from that future? There was a brief pause. I see you've done your homework. Yes, I have financial interests in Titan Defense. But my motivations are patriotic, not mercenary. Alex adjusted her position slightly, keeping an eye on the soldiers who were trying to flank her. Patriotic motivations don't usually require murdering investigators who get too close to the truth. You were becoming a problem, Ms. Rivera. Your investigation into defense contractor corruption was threatening to expose classified programs that are vital to national security, or threatening to expose your illegal profiteering from government contracts. Another pause. Perhaps we can reach an understanding. You're clearly a talented operator, and Titan Defense is always looking for skilled personnel. I could offer you a very lucrative position. Alex laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. You think I'd work for the people who kill my brother? Your brother died in Phoenix because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. His death was an unfortunate accident during another field test. The casual dismissal of Miguel's death sent a surge of rage through Alex that she had to consciously control. She forced herself to focus on the tactical situation rather than her emotional response. Senator, I'm going to give you one chance to call off your dogs and walk away from this. Otherwise, things are going to get very unpleasant for you and your corporate friends. I'm afraid that's not possible. You've seen too much, and you know too much. My associates have orders to neutralize the threat you represent. In that case, Alex said, let me show you what happens when you threaten the wrong person. She squeezed the trigger, sending an EMP round through the main rotor assembly of the nearest helicopter. The aircraft electronics went dead immediately, and the rotor blades ground to a halt. The helicopter was effectively grounded until extensive repairs could be made. The Titan soldiers responded immediately, converging on her position from multiple directions. Alex was already moving, using the rooftops' air conditioning units and ventilation equipment as cover while she relocated to a better defensive position. Take her alive if possible, came Blackwood's voice over their tactical frequency. We need to know what she's done with the data she stole. Alex smiled grimly as she set up her rifle again. They wanted her alive, which meant they'd be more cautious about their assault. That gave her an advantage in a protracted firefight. She selected another EMP round and aimed at the second helicopter. This shot was more challenging because the aircraft was farther away and partially concealed by buildings, but the specialized ammunition struck home and disabled the helicopter's avionics systems. 2 down, 1 to go. The Titan soldiers were on the roof now, moving with practiced efficiency as they cleared the area section by section. Alex counted at least 8 of them, all armed with automatic weapons and wearing body armor. But she had advantages they didn't. She knew the layout of the rooftop better than they did. She had superior position, and, most importantly, she was fighting for something more important than money. Alex picked her first target carefully. The soldier was advancing along the western edge of the roof, using an air conditioning unit for cover, but exposing his left shoulder and part of his head. A standard sniper round through the shoulder would disable him without causing fatal injury. The shot echoed across the rooftop, and the soldier dropped with a cry of pain and surprise. His teammates immediately took cover and began trying to locate her muzzle flash. One down, Alex transmitted on their frequency. 7 to go. Anyone want to reconsider their career choices? The response was a burst of automatic weapons fire that chewed up the concrete around her previous position. Fortunately, she'd already moved to a new spot behind a large ventilation fan. Alex was reaching for another round when her radio crackled with a familiar voice. "Rivera, this is Alpha Team. We're moving to your position. ETA, 3 minutes. "Negative, Alpha Team," she replied quickly. "Stay where you are. This isn't your fight." "Like hell it isn't," came Jake Morrison's voice. "These bastards tried to use us as lab rats. We're settling the score." Alex wanted to argue, but she was too busy avoiding the systematic search being conducted by the remaining Titan soldiers. They were good at their job, and they were closing in on her position steadily. "If you're coming, approach from the east side," she transmitted. "I've disabled 2 of their helicopters, but the 3rd one is still operational. Watch for snipers on the surrounding buildings." "Copy that." Santos has eyes on at least 2 overwatch positions. "We'll deal with them." Alex heard gunfire from the street level as the Rangers engaged the Titan perimeter guards. The sound of combat echoed off the empty buildings, creating a chaotic symphony that masked her own movements as she repositioned again. She was down to 3 EMP rounds and a dozen standard bullets. Not much ammunition for a prolonged firefight, but it would have to be enough. A Titan soldier appeared around the corner of a rooftop access shed, his weapon raised and ready. Alex was faster, putting a round through his thigh and sending him sprawling behind cover. He'd live, but he was out of the fight. "Contact east side," he shouted into his radio. Sniper positioned near the main ventilation array. Immediately, 3 more soldiers converged on her position from different directions. Alex found herself pinned down behind a concrete barrier with limited options for escape. That's when the explosion came from the 3rd helicopter. Alex looked up to see the aircraft burning on the parking lot below, its fuel tank having been ruptured by what was probably a well-placed shot from Santos or one of the other Rangers. Black smoke billowed into the sky, and she could see figures running away from the wreckage. "Nice work, Alpha Team," she transmitted. "We aim to please," came Santos's voice. "How many hostiles do you still have up there?" Alex did a quick count. 5 or 6 active, plus 2 wounded. They're well-equipped and professional, but they've lost their extraction option. "Copy that. We're coming up the fire escape on the south side." The tactical situation was changing rapidly now. With their helicopters destroyed and their escape route cut off, the Titan soldiers were trapped in a hostile environment with limited ammunition and no backup. Alex could hear their team leader trying to contact their command center, but the responses were increasingly desperate. "Control, this is Titan 6. We need immediate extraction. All aircraft are down, and we're taking heavy casualties. Titan 6, no additional assets are available. Complete your mission with available resources." Alex shook her head in disgust. Even when their people were trapped and outnumbered, the corporate executives were willing to sacrifice them rather than admit failure. She heard footsteps on the fire escape and positioned herself to provide covering fire for the Rangers as they reached the roof. Jake Morrison was the first one up, followed by Santos and 3 other soldiers whose names she hadn't learned yet. "Glad to see you're still breathing," Jake said as he took cover beside her. "The feeling's mutual, Captain. What's the situation on the ground?" "We neutralized the perimeter guards, but there are probably more Titan personnel in the area. Rodriguez is monitoring their communications, and it sounds like they're calling for backup." Santos had set up a rifle and was scanning for targets. "I count 4 hostiles still active on this roof. They've taken defensive positions near the north wall." Alex nodded. They're trying to hold that position until help arrives. We need to move fast before more corporate soldiers show up. What's the plan? Jake asked. Alex checked her remaining ammunition. 3 EMP rounds, 12 standard bullets. Not much, but it might be enough if they were smart about it. The Titan soldiers are professionals, but they're used to fighting foreign enemies who don't know their tactics. We need to do something unexpected. She pulled out her phone and showed them the data she'd downloaded from the robot. According to this, Senator Blackwood has been using defense contracts to fund illegal weapons development. This whole operation was designed to field test the robots while eliminating witnesses. Jake studied the files with growing anger. Son of a bitch. They were planning to kill us from the beginning. That's right. But now we have evidence of their crimes, and they know it. They can't let us leave alive. Santos looked up from her rifle scope. So what do? Fight our way out through whatever backup they send. Alex shook her head. We don't run. We finish this here and now. She pointed toward the shopping center's main entrance. There's a Titan Defense Command post set up in the old electronics store. All their communications equipment, tactical coordination, and probably Senator Blackwood himself. You want us to assault a fortified position with 6 people and limited ammunition? Williams asked skeptically. I want us to capture Senator Blackwood and his command staff. Once we have them in custody, this whole operation falls apart. Jake considered the proposal. It's risky. If we fail, we're all dead. If we don't try, we're dead anyway, Alex pointed out. At least this way, we take them down with us. The Rangers exchanged glances, communicating through the kind of wordless understanding that comes from months of fighting together. Finally, Jake nodded. All right, Rivera, you've gotten us this far. What do you need us to do? Alex smiled, and for the first time since the battle began, it was a genuinely confident expression. I need you to be Rangers. No matter how impossible the odds look, no matter how outgunned we are, we're going to win this fight. Santos chambered a round in her rifle. I like the sound of that. Here's the plan, Alex continued. The Titan soldiers on this roof are trying to hold a defensive position until backup arrives. Instead of attacking them directly, we're going to bypass them entirely. She pointed to a series of maintenance ladders that connected the shopping center to the surrounding buildings. We'll use the building infrastructure to move laterally instead of fighting through their defensive line. That's a hell of a climb, Rodriguez observed. Better than a frontal assault against prepared positions, Jake said. Rivera, how do we get past their overwatch without being spotted? Alex held up one of her remaining EMP rounds. These aren't just for robots. They'll disable any electronic surveillance equipment the Titan people have set up. She explained her plan in detail. It was dangerous and required precise timing, but it was their best chance of reaching the command post before reinforcements arrived. Questions? She asked when she finished. Williams raised his hand. Yeah. What happens if Senator Blackwood decides to cut his losses and orders an airstrike on this whole area? Alex had been wondering the same thing. Blackwood had already demonstrated that he was willing to sacrifice American soldiers to protect his illegal activities. If he felt cornered enough, he might resort to even more extreme measures. Then, we make sure we get him before he has the chance, she replied grimly. Jake checked his weapon one last time. All right, people. You heard the lady. Time to show these corporate mercenaries what happens when they mess with United States Rangers. As they prepared to move out, Alex's radio crackled with another transmission from Senator Blackwood. Ms. Rivera, I'm making one final offer. Surrender now, and I guarantee safe passage for the Rangers. This doesn't have to end in bloodshed. Alex looked at Jake and his soldiers, seeing the determination in their faces. These were people who had been betrayed by their own government, used as test subjects, and marked for death to cover up corporate corruption. They weren't going to walk away from this fight. Senator, she replied, you should have thought about bloodshed before you decided to murder American soldiers for profit. So be it, came Blackwood's response. You've made your choice. Alex turned off her radio and shouldered her rifle. Let's go in. The final assault was about to begin. The assault began with Alex firing her EMP round into a cluster of electronic surveillance equipment that the Titan forces had positioned on the adjacent office building. The electromagnetic pulse wiped out their night vision cameras, motion sensors, and communication relays in a shower of sparks and dead screens. Go, 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 Jake shouted, and the Rangers moved out in a coordinated rush toward the maintenance ladder system that would take them around the Titan defensive position. Santos went first, her sniper rifle slung across her back as she climbed the steel rungs with practiced efficiency. Williams and Thompson followed, while Rodriguez stayed with Alex to provide covering fire if the Titan soldiers spotted their movement. The plan was working until one of the corporate mercenaries decided to check on the equipment that had just gone dark. Movement on the east ladder, the soldier shouted into his radio. 6 personnel attempting to flank our position. Immediately, automatic weapons fire began chewing up the concrete around the climbing Rangers. Santos pressed herself against the building wall as bullets sparked off the steel ladder just inches from her head. They're pinned down, Rodriguez reported. We need to give them covering fire. Alex was already moving, repositioning herself to get a clear shot at the soldier who was directing fire at the Rangers. She found him behind an air conditioning unit, coordinating with his teammates through hand signals. The standard sniper round took him down with a shot through the shoulder, spinning him away from his cover and sending him sprawling on the rooftop. His teammates immediately shifted their attention to Alex's position, giving Santos the opportunity she needed to continue climbing. Rivera, we're taking heavy fire down here, came Jake's voice over the radio. He was still on the roof with the wounded Rangers, keeping the remaining Titan soldiers busy while Santos's team made their flanking maneuver. Hold your position, Alpha Team. Santos is almost in Overwatch position. Alex could see Santos reaching the top of the office building, where she'd have a clear field of fire down onto the Titan defensive position. The sergeant was one of the best marksmen Alex had ever worked with, and once she got her rifle set up, the tactical situation would change dramatically. But the Titan soldiers were adapting to the new threat. Their team leader was repositioning his people to defend against attack from multiple directions, and Alex could see more figures moving in the buildings surrounding the shopping center. Rodriguez, are you picking up any communications about backup forces? She asked. Rodriguez, who had been monitoring the enemy radio chatter, looked grim. Yes, ma'am. Sounds like they've got at least 20 more personnel en route. ETA, 10 minutes. 10 minutes. That wasn't much time to reach the command post, capture Senator Blackwood, and extract the evidence they needed to expose the conspiracy. Alex made a decision that would have seemed insane under normal circumstances. Alpha Team, Rivera. Change of plans. I'm going to create a major distraction while Santos gets into position. Why give a word? Assault the command post directly. Rivera, what are you planning? Jake's voice carried a note of concern. Alex was already moving toward the edge of the rooftop, something that would make Miguel proud. Before anyone could ask what she meant, Alex slung her rifle across her back and sprinted toward the gap between the shopping center and the office building next to it. It was a 15-foot jump across a 4-story drop, the kind of stunt that would either work perfectly or kill her instantly. She hit the edge of the roof at full speed and launched herself across the empty space, her momentum carrying her over the alley below. For a moment, she was flying through the air with nothing but concrete and steel beneath her, and then she crashed onto the opposite rooftop in a rolling landing that left her bruised but intact. The Titan soldiers were so surprised by the unexpected maneuver that they stopped shooting for several seconds, trying to figure out what had just happened. Alex used those precious seconds to set up her rifle and put 2 quick shots into the communications equipment on the roof below. The specialized rounds disabled their tactical radio system and left them unable to coordinate with their backup forces. Holy shit, came Williams's voice over the radio. Did she just jump between buildings? Santos, you're clear to engage, Alex transmitted. I've got the northern approach covered. Santos didn't waste any time. From her Overwatch position, She began picking off the Titan soldiers with precise shots that disabled rather than killed. A bullet through the shoulder here, a shot to the thigh there. Within 30 seconds, 3 more corporate mercenaries were out of action. Alpha Team, assault the command post now. Alex ordered. I'll keep the remaining hostiles pinned down. Jake and his Rangers moved with the kind of coordinated precision that comes from years of training and combat experience. They flowed down the fire escape and across the parking lot like water, using every piece of cover available while advancing steadily toward their target. Alex provided overwatch fire, picking off any Titan soldier who tried to interfere with the Rangers' advance. Her ammunition was running low now, down to her last EMP round and 6 standard bullets, but she made every shot count. The command post was located in what used to be a large electronics store, its windows covered with tactical barriers, and its entrance guarded by 2 soldiers with heavy weapons. Jake and his team approached from multiple angles, using smoke grenades to obscure their movement, while Santos provided precision fire from her elevated position. The assault was swift and decisive. Williams and Thompson went through the main entrance while Rodriguez and the others breached a side door. Jake coordinated the attack from outside, watching for threats and directing his people as they cleared the building room by room. Alex could hear the gunfire and shouting from inside the store as the Rangers engaged the Titan personnel. The sounds of combat gradually faded, replaced by the voices of soldiers securing prisoners and gathering evidence. Rivera, this is Alpha Team Leader, came Jake's voice over the radio. Command post is secure. We've got 6 prisoners, including a very unhappy Senator Blackwood. Alex felt a surge of satisfaction that was quickly tempered by the knowledge that their mission wasn't over yet. They had the evidence and the principal conspirator, but they still needed to get out of Millbrook alive. What's the intelligence situation? She asked. Rodriguez is downloading everything from their computer systems. Looks like we've hit the jackpot. Financial records, operational plans, correspondence with government officials. This goes way deeper than just one crooked senator. Alex was already planning their extraction route when Santos's voice cut through the radio chatter. All units, we've got a problem. Multiple aircraft incoming from the southwest. Looks like military helicopters, but they're not displaying identification markings. Alex looked up to see 4 black helicopters approaching fast and low. These weren't the same type as the Titan aircraft they destroyed earlier. These were larger, more heavily armed, and they moved with the kind of formation discipline that suggested professional military pilots. Rodriguez, are you picking up any communications from those aircraft? Jake asked. Negative, sir. They're maintaining radio silence. Alex felt a chill of recognition as she studied the approaching helicopters through her scope. She'd seen aircraft like these before during classified operations that officially didn't exist. Alpha Team, those aren't corporate contractors, she transmitted urgently. Those are Black Ops birds. Military Special Operations. What does that mean? Williams asked. It means Senator Blackwood has friends in very high places, and they've decided to cut their losses by eliminating all the witnesses. The helicopters were close enough now that Alex could see the door gunners preparing their weapons. These weren't coming to arrest anyone or gather evidence. They were coming to clean up a problem by the simplest method available. Alpha Team, you need to evacuate that building immediately, Alex ordered. They're going to level the entire area. We can't leave the prisoners, Jake replied. There are only proof of what really happened here. The prisoners won't matter if we're all dead. Alex was watching the helicopters deploy into attack formation when something unexpected happened. 2 more aircraft appeared from the east, but these were clearly marked with official military identification numbers. Unknown aircraft. This is Colonel Martinez with the 82nd Airborne. You are ordered to stand down immediately and identify yourselves. The black helicopters broke formation, obviously surprised by the arrival of legitimate military forces. For a moment, Alex thought they might actually comply with the order to withdraw. Then, the shooting started. The Black Ops aircraft opened fire with their door guns, trying to drive off the official military helicopters. The 82nd Airborne pilots responded with evasive maneuvers and return fire, turning the sky above Millbrook into a chaotic aerial battlefield. Rivera, this is Colonel Martinez. Came a transmission on Alex's secure frequency. I received your data upload and contacted the appropriate authorities. We're here to extract you and the Rangers safely. Colonel, be advised we have multiple prisoners and critical evidence in the shopping center command post. Copy that. We'll provide air support while you evacuate to the extraction point. Alex watched as one of the black helicopters took a direct hit from the military aircraft and went down in flames in the parking lot of a nearby strip mall. The remaining 3 were still fighting, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Alpha Team, this is your chance, Alex transmitted. Move the prisoners to the extraction point while we have air support. Where's the extraction point? Jake asked. Alex looked around the area, trying to identify a suitable location. The school playground 6 blocks east was the best option, large enough for military helicopters to land and far enough from the combat zone to provide some safety. Elementary school playground, 6 blocks east of your position. I'll provide overwatch during the movement. What about you? How are you getting out of here? Alex looked at the route she'd have to take to reach the extraction point. It would require crossing several blocks of urban terrain while under potential fire from the remaining Black Ops forces. I'll catch up, she said, though she wasn't entirely sure how. She watched through her scope as Jake and his Rangers began moving the prisoners out of the command post. Senator Blackwood was among them, his expensive suit torn and dirty, his politician's composure replaced by the fear of a man who knew his crimes had finally caught up with him. The movement to the extraction point took 20 minutes that felt like hours. Alex provided covering fire from multiple positions, using her last EMP round to disable a Titan defense vehicle that tried to intercept the Rangers during their movement. When she fired her final standard round, Alex was left with an empty rifle and the knowledge that she was completely out of ammunition. But Jake and his team had reached the playground safely, and she could see the military helicopters preparing to land for extraction. The problem was that she was still 6 blocks away with no way to cover the distance before the extraction window closed. That's when Santos's voice came over the radio. Rivera, I'm seeing movement in your area. Looks like some of those Titan soldiers are still active and heading your way. Alex looked around the rooftop where she'd made her last stand. She could see at least 4 figures moving through the buildings below, all armed and clearly intent on preventing her from reaching the extraction point. With no ammunition left and no backup, Alex Rivera found herself in the position that had defined her entire military career, outnumbered, outgunned, and facing impossible odds. But she'd been in impossible situations before, and she'd always found a way to survive. Alpha Team, she transmitted calmly, if I don't make it to the extraction point, make sure that evidence reaches the right people. Senator Blackwood and his conspirators need to answer for what they've done. Rivera, we're not leaving you behind, Jake replied firmly. Alex smiled as she prepared for what might be her final fight. Don't worry about me, Captain. I've got one more impossible thing left to do. Alex Rivera stood on the rooftop with an empty rifle, watching 4 armed Titan defense soldiers advance through the buildings below her position. In her years as a Marine sniper and private investigator, she'd faced death many times, but never quite like this. Never with so much riding on her survival. The data she'd uploaded to her secure server would automatically release to news outlets and government watchdogs if she didn't check in within the next few hours. But that wouldn't help Jake Morrison and his Rangers, who were risking their lives to expose the conspiracy that had used them as test subjects. Alex made a quick inventory of her remaining resources. No ammunition, limited mobility options, and for professional soldiers hunting her. What she did have was intimate knowledge of the urban environment, years of combat experience, and a burning desire to see Senator Blackwood pay for his crimes. She also had something the Titan soldiers probably didn't expect, a complete willingness to do whatever it took to survive. Alex moved quickly across the rooftop, heading for the building's internal stairwell. Her plan was simple in concept, but dangerous in execution. Instead of trying to evade the soldiers who were hunting her, she was going to hunt them. The first Titan operative was advancing through the ground floor of the building, checking each room systematically. Alex could hear his footsteps echoing in the empty corridors as she made her way down the stairwell with silent precision. She reached the third floor and positioned herself near the stairwell door, listening for the soldier's approach. When he reached the landing below, she made her move. The combat knife she carried as a backup weapon was designed for close-quarters fighting, and Alex had been trained in its use by some of the best instructors in the Marine Corps. The Titan soldier never had a chance to raise his weapon before Alex was on him, striking with lethal precision. 1 down, 3 to go. Alex took the soldier's rifle and ammunition, finally giving herself some firepower for the continuing fight. She also took his radio, which would allow her to monitor the communications of the remaining hunters. Titan 3, this is Titan Lead, came a voice over the radio. Report your status. Alex waited, but there was no response from the soldier she'd just eliminated. Titan 3, respond immediately. Still nothing. The team leader was getting suspicious. All units, Titan 3 is not responding. Assume hostile contact and move to backup positions. Alex smiled grimly as she heard the remaining soldiers changing their approach. They were being more cautious now, which would slow them down, but also make them harder to surprise. She needed to reach the extraction point in the next 15 minutes, which meant she had to eliminate the remaining threats quickly and efficiently. Alex made her way to the building's elevator shaft, which had been disabled for months, but still provided access between floors through its maintenance ladder. She climbed down 2 levels and positioned herself near the second-floor elevator doors. The second Titan soldier was advancing through the hallway, moving carefully but still following predictable patterns. When he passed the elevator doors, Alex struck. The engagement was brief and decisive. The soldier went down without getting off a shot, and Alex had his ammunition and equipment added to her growing arsenal. Titan 2, report, came the increasingly tense voice of the team leader. Again, no response. Titan 4, we've lost contact with 2 and 3. Converge on my position immediately. Alex could hear the fear creeping into the leader's voice. He was realizing that instead of hunting a helpless target, he was being systematically eliminated by someone with superior skills and intimate knowledge of the terrain. She checked her watch. 10 minutes until the extraction window closed. Alex moved to the building's roof access, where she had a clear view of the surrounding area. She could see the remaining 2 soldiers repositioning themselves, trying to establish a defensive perimeter while they figured out what had happened to their teammates. The problem was that they were good at their jobs. They'd taken cover in positions that would be difficult to assault directly, and they were maintaining radio contact with each other to avoid being surprised again. Alex needed a different approach. She opened her captured radio and transmitted on the Titan defense frequency, using her best imitation of one of the soldiers she'd eliminated. Titan lead, this is Titan 3. I've got eyes on the target. She's moving east toward the extraction point through the alley system. There was a pause. Titan 3, you didn't respond to my previous calls. Radio malfunction, Alex replied. I've been tracking the target visually. She's approximately 2 blocks from the school playground. Another pause, longer this time. Titan 3, what's your current position? Alex had been expecting that question. Southwest corner of the shopping complex, upper level. Negative, Titan 3. I can see that position from here, and there's no one there. Damn, the team leader was smarter than she'd hoped. All units, we have a hostile on our communications frequency, came the leader's voice. Someone has compromised Titan 3's radio. Assume all previous transmissions are false information. Alex cursed under her breath. The deception had been worth trying, but now the remaining soldiers would be even more cautious. She could hear one of them moving through the building below, conducting a methodical search of every floor. The other was maintaining an overwatch position outside, covering potential escape routes. 8 minutes until extraction. Alex made a decision that would have horrified her military instructors, but was necessary under the circumstances. Instead of continuing to hunt the soldiers individually, she was going to force them to come to her. She pulled the pins from 2 grenades that she'd taken from the eliminated soldiers and tossed them into the building's central courtyard. The explosions echoed across the empty city, sending debris flying and creating enough noise to be heard for miles. The effect on the remaining Titan soldiers was immediate. They both broke from their positions and converged on the building where the explosions had occurred, apparently believing that Alex had been caught in some kind of accident or trap. That gave Alex the opening she needed to leave the building through a rear exit and begin making her way toward the extraction point. But as she moved through the alley behind the building, she realized that the team leader had anticipated exactly this kind of deception. "Gotcha," came a voice from behind her. Alex spun around to find the Titan team leader pointing an assault rifle directly at her chest. He was a professional soldier in his 40s, with the kind of calm competence that came from years of combat experience. "Ms. Rivera," he said conversationally, "you've caused my employers a great deal of trouble today." "Your employers tried to murder American soldiers," Alex replied, keeping her hands visible, but ready to move if an opportunity presented itself. "Politics isn't my concern. I'm paid to complete missions, not to question them, even when those missions involve betraying your own country." The soldier's expression didn't change. "My country is whoever signs my paycheck." Alex could hear the helicopter engines in the distance, indicating that the extraction was proceeding on schedule. Jake and his rangers were probably already airborne with their prisoners and evidence. "It's over," she told the Titan leader. "Your operation has failed. Senator Blackwood is in custody, and the evidence of the conspiracy is already being distributed to news outlets." "Maybe," the soldier agreed, "but I still have orders to eliminate you." "Why? What does my death accomplish now?" "It sends a message to other people who might consider interfering with corporate interests in the future." Alex realized that this wasn't just about covering up the robot testing program. This was about intimidating anyone who might challenge the military-industrial complex that had grown so powerful it could conduct illegal experiments on American soil. She was about to respond when the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the alley. The 4th Titan soldier appeared at the far end, positioning himself to prevent any escape attempt. 2 against 1, the team leader observed. "I like those odds better." Alex calculated her chances of surviving a gunfight against 2 professional soldiers in an open alley. The mathematics were not encouraging. That's when the sniper's bullet took down the 4th soldier. The shot came from somewhere above and behind Alex, striking the 2nd Titan operative with enough force to spin him around and send him crashing into a pile of trash.